Braveboy, Maryland State Attorney, Prince George's County, Maryland.
Well, it is such an honor to be with all of you today. I am Aisha Braveboy, State's Attorney for Prince George's County, but I also stand before you as a Christian and as a woman of faith. And it is both in both roles that I have pursued my job as State's Attorney. Coming into office, you have to write what's called an investiture speech, and that is a speech that lays out your path, not only to getting in the office, but what you're going to do while you're in that office. And of course, as the top law enforcement officer, I spent a lot of time talking about, holding people accountable and keeping my community safe. But as I was writing this speech, something and someone gave me the words that not only will I seek justice for those who are victims, but I will also seek justice for those who are wrongfully convicted and those who received unfair sentences. At the time I made those remarks, I wasn't exactly sure how that would play out, but I knew I needed to say it. A couple months later, I'm in my office and I get a letter from the Office of the Attorney General. And in that letter, I was asked a question. The question was whether or not I wanted to continue to pursue an appeal of a sentence for an individual who had been resentenced from a life sentence to a sentence of 70 years. So that sentence, that resentencing had taken place before I became state's attorney, and the prior administration had appealed the resentencing, wanting the court to reimpose the life sentence. And so I said, well, let me look at who they're talking about. I want to understand who this individual was who received a resentencing. And so as I looked through his history in our correctional system, the work that he had done, the classes that he had taken, the mentorship that he had provided to everyone who he encountered, the fact that everyone who supervised him said that this was just a terrific individual who deserved a second chance. I said, well, it's not good enough for me to drop the appeal, because we're certainly not going to ask for the life sentence to be reimposed. But what else can we do? Because it sounds like everyone says he should be home. At the time, there was no clear pathway to bring him back home, but I decided that we would search for one, which we did, and we found one in our court system through our reentry court process. So it was the first time in the history of our courthouse that a state's attorney stood across the aisle from an inmate and asked the judge to have him consider for the reentry court program that would give him an opportunity to come home. And in supporting that decision, the judge shared with this young man that it is not enough for this opportunity to be given to you, but you must make the most and best of this opportunity, because if you are successful, the door will open for many people to come after you. If you are not successful, then the door will likely close. And as I was contemplating and thinking about what this moment meant, I knew that it was huge. It was huge. The judge agreed to sentence him to reentry court, and in 6 short months, he was back home with his family. And about a year and a half later, he got a job working in the state's attorney's office, the same office that 29 years before. You know, what I recognize is that the role that I have and the decisions that I make are not mine alone. They're really decisions that are coming from a much higher power. It is not me who said that redemption is real. That came from someone who has much greater power than I have. But what he has given me is a platform. He has given me and empowered me with the duty and responsibility to do what is right. And what is right is to look at an individual for who they are today and not what they did 25, 30, 40 years ago. And because I made that commitment and that decision to stay true to that word, there are over 48 people who are home today. Home today. And I know at least one is with us today in this room. If you would stand up, Mr. Sly. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for making it worth it to do this work. Oftentimes people look at me in my role and say, why would you do that? Why would you risk your reputation for someone who did something so heinous or so wrong? And I said, it is not my reputation. It is the word of God. And I want my reputation to be one who stands in her faith and in truth and in justice. And so as state's attorney, that is my duty too. My duty is not only to seek convictions, but it is also to seek justice. And justice looks different at every phase of the process. And so while I absolutely have and will continue to hold people accountable, I also will continue to believe in them as well. I can tell you that my office, in addition to the work we do to hold people accountable, those same people who we hold accountable, we reach back out to them while they're serving their time. I was the first state's attorney to create what's called an emerging adult program for those individuals who are 18 through 26 when they committed their offense. We actually partnered with the Department of Public Safety and Correctional Services, first under then Secretary Green, and now under Secretary Scruggs, where we provide virtual life skills and mentorship to individuals who are serving time. They are still my constituents. They may not be physically living in my county, but they're mine. And I care about them, and I want to ensure that they have the tools to be successful. I can tell you we've had about 15 men in that program. Those who have returned home have been successful. Some are in school, some have pursued careers. But the most important thing for me as state's attorney is that none have returned to the justice system. And just about a month ago, we launched our first cohort of women who are incarcerated as well. We have to ensure that our women receive services. They are oftentimes the unforgotten voices in our system. We always think of what can we do to help our men. And while we want to help our men and we will continue to help them, our women need our help too. And on May 17th, we will be hosting the first ever Untold Stories of Women and Girls in the Justice System. And I want to thank Leslie Johnson, who herself is a retired citizen, who also works in my office. I want to thank her for her leadership in ensuring that that event will be a success. You know, it's so easy, and it would be so easy for me to just focus on the convictions, to just focus on getting tough sentences. And if you heard me on the news, you know that I'm not afraid to do that either. And we do have to do that because everyone deserves to live in a safe community. But we also know that cards aren't dealt the same for everyone. And we know that people have and they will make decisions that are, unfortunately, many times, criminal decisions. But is that the sum total of who they are or who they can be? For me, the answer is no. For me, the answer really lies in my faith and in my teachings. And what I believe very strongly in is being responsible for helping to correct behavior, improve opportunities for individuals, and then create a system that supports everyone. And so by me taking the step to hire someone who is a convicted murderer, this is someone who was convicted for murder as a juvenile, for me to have the belief, the trust in my faith, the understanding of human development, and when I see someone who has truly changed, if I can support them, if I can give them an opportunity, then so can you, and so can you. And that's what we have to do. We have to lead by example. It's not enough for us to just say, hey, we support our returning citizens. No, we have to demonstrate our beliefs as well. Faith is not a noun, it's a verb. If you truly have faith, then you will act on that faith. And so that is why I think this conference is so important. Because while there's so many reasons why it would be so much easier not to focus, not to give these second chances to people, I have 48 plus reasons why it matters. Those people are in our communities today, and I can tell you we have about 20 more on the way. And we will continue to provide these opportunities for people to come back home, to come back to our communities, to create their own foundations, to serve as mentors for our young people who are, going in the wrong direction. They are the credible messengers that our community needs, especially at a time such as this, where we're seeing a rise, unfortunately, in juvenile crime, when we see our families not as tight-knit as they once were. We need individuals who understand what it means to be behind the wall, coming to talk to us, our young people, our families, about why we need to support each other, why we need to have more resources in our community, why we need to focus on the issue of mental illness because there's so many people behind the wall who have suffered from some form of mental illness. So all of these issues are extremely important to creating a safe society. And I know that our returning citizens, all of you who fall into that category, are in such a good position to give us the answers to so many questions that we have. So I am grateful again to be in this position. I'm grateful to be here at this conference. And I thank each and every one of you, especially those of you who have returned, for really proving not me right, but proving God right. Redemption is real. And it's